HTC showed off a new innovation for the next generation of the Vive eye tracking. They used a retrofitted Vive. Using that, the user could play through a short demo that showed off the eye tracking feature, first by looking in a mirror and then by picking up and interacting with objects and people. And it works. Like it's like basically as it is now, it's just the standard HTC setup, but it's got a run of LED lights that go around the base of the goggles and that track your eyes movement. Not only your eye movement, but blinking as well.
That's
wow.
Really okay. So what does that mean for game control possibilities?
I think what it means is
pretty cool.
It's going to affect how we interact with NPCs at some point.
Okay, I didn't think of that, but here's another thought. Mechanics in games where maybe the protagonist has some sort of psychic ability. One of the cool things in Breath of the Wild are some of these abilities that you end up getting through dungeons. One of the first ones that I got was the ability to magnetize things, and so you pick them up, you levitate them, you put them back down, and it helps you solve puzzles. But if you had to use eye movement to kind of like mentally interact, like in a way mentally interact with objects as opposed to physically interact, right? Like you can't physically interact with something, you have to use eye movement to be able to do it, and purposeful eye movement, it brings another degree of control into a VR setting, and I think that that's really cool.
What about in first-person shooters, using your eye movement to look around?
I was going to say, the way that you aim in VR for Resident Evil 7 is actually by where you look, and I mean, it works to an extent,
but that's head movement, though.
It's the pivot of your head and your neck.
Now we're
talking about the eyes.
Yes, there is no
is where you aim.
But that's what I'm saying, is that there is no analog for that in real life. Like, you can't interact with objects with your eyes in real life, right? Like, that's a different degree of control that you would be able to have on your environment. Now, imagine applying that like you apply any other different kind of control scheme or mechanic to something that, like a magic ability that you control with your eyes. You have no frame of reference for this in the physical space.
Can you imagine looking through a rifle or something and having to close one eye while you aim for the other one?
Shit. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, there's like a lot that you can do with this, and I think what was coolest about this article was that the technology worked. The person who was testing out was reporting back, was like, no, it follows your eye movement with zero latency. It tracks your blinking. It works.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, is that really necessary in a video game? That's like almost feels like just like real life.
I think if you're looking at something like VR, I think every step towards realism is important.
Well, not even that. Like Nate's saying, because there's no analog for this in real life. Like, I'm sitting here just thinking to myself, why is this needed? Like, what can you possibly do with this? And I guess that's, thinking about it now, what I'm most excited for is just to see what developers are able to do with a tool like this.
How long is it going to be before you're playing a game, talking to an NPC, and you get the, hey, my eyes are up here, because the game is tracking that you're looking at her chest?
There you go. Yeah, see, and that's exactly it, is that you can use it in multifaceted ways. Like, you can use it as a way to control something in the environment, because we do know that it's responsive and that it works. The other thing that you can do is you can use it as an add-on feature. It's not maybe a core feature, but yeah, you're right. Like, it's a thing that engages during NPC dialogue, or think of it like the touch screen on the back of a Vita. Not every game uses it, but the games that do use it kind of use it in pretty creative ways.
So the question then becomes, and this comes from Carlette in our chat here, what happens when you have people who suffer from some type of eye disorder, like astigmatism or cataracts?
That's a very good question. But on the other side of that, what if you have someone who's physically disabled or are paralyzed even? Now, this gives you a degree of control through eye movement that you don't have in your physical space, and is a potential to allow people who might be trapped in their own body to communicate, to express themselves, to be able to, have some kind of autonomy in a virtual environment, I think that presents a whole lot of possibilities there. Now, again, I don't know what to say to, folks who have degenerative eye disorders. I have one myself. I have glaucoma. So, is this going to affect my ability to be able to participate in something like this? I don't know, but I think the technology is definitely super friggin' cool.
Well, I think at the end of the day, if you're in VR, I mean, we joke about the term immersion all the time, but the goal is to create an environment that does not break your immersion at any point. And this is another step towards that, because at the end of the day, when you're playing Resident Evil and you've got your headset on, the fact that the only way you can turn the camera is by turning your head. Well, in real life, your eyes aren't locked in a fixed forward position.
Right.
If you can eventually look like that to make your character look up towards the ceiling, then that would be a major step in VR.
Well, one step closer to the framework.
I'm sorry. One of the existing frameworks for people to communicate who are disabled on that level, who are paralyzed, is through eye movement. Mm-hmm. That's already an existing system. If you're tracking eye movement, you can track, hold up two cards, yes or no, and that's a way to communicate. But think of this as a way to do that way more fluidly in real time, and without having to, have all of these additional restrictions of people having to, analyze the responses. Like, all of this is all really great and super important on a technology scale to, just overall technology, to just not just for games.
This is starting to remind me of an episode of Black Mirror.
A little bit.
We're getting there.
Yeah, a little bit.